Hello everyone and welcome back to another album review, and in this video I'm going to review Van by Clowncore. This is the third album of this weird experimental rock and electronic duo from the US, whose extreme deliveries and novelty approaches could definitely make up for the choice of this particular name, Clowncore. The interesting thing though is that we're not talking about just a simple act that uses usual sounds of clown or circus music and just put it into a more extreme fashion. Instead, what's the very interesting part about every single work from Clowncore is that they also have smooth elements to them. I mean, in some occasions you have some elements of like avant-garde metal and then avant-garde jazz, and in other occasions it's just like a fusion of like brutal prog and cybergrind. It really can be a huge mess of just so many different sounds coming together, and all of this in just very short and straightforward albums that would go for less than 20 minutes long. The main issue though is that sometimes it works, sometimes it doesn't. As far as the main appeal is that you never know what to expect from Clowncore, the thing is that not every single direction hits the same, and that makes for specific moments to stand out compared to others, and the albums in particular to just become an inconsistent mess, which was pretty much the case with the previous two albums they did. As far as I find them to be very intriguing works, they're just albums that had their moments, nothing beyond that. I find that both of their albums could definitely have the potential for something more if they would stick to some specific sounds and not just try every single time to just put something different. I get it that it's a novelty thing, and I think that in lots of the occasions Clowncore is one of the most successful acts that manages to have these novelty sounds but also some really talented and very abstract instrumentation. With the avant-garde sections of rock and jazz music, it makes for some very compelling results, but this is not the case with every single moment, and I find that Van suffers from some of the same issues. With this album though, we get the longest work that goes for 17 minutes instead of the previous two ones that go for just 13 minutes, but we still have a pretty inconsistent mess of an album. In my opinion though, we still get one of the better works, and some of the most standout moments out of every project from Clowncore are in Van. There are some amazing moments over here, but the thing is that once again we're talking about specific moments. With the case of Van, for me it's with some of the less adventurous and the less engaging moments where the album really loses its consistency in order to just become a much better experience. There are occasions that work great as novelty, but for individual tracks you would expect that they would have some sort of element of surprise that never comes. Instead, we have tracks like Tears of God, for example, which is just a smooth jazz moment that feels really safe, and compared to the majority of this album with its very extreme and bizarre sounds, we don't get a moment like this with Tears of God. It's just a moment that goes for the same thing without anything engaging, without something that would give an element of surprise, without something that would manage to make it stand out other than its novelty theme and a different approach. This track, along with other moments, would serve as like introduction for something more dynamic and more engaging to come, but we're just talking about individual tracks, and the album would take this pattern where it would go from a downright insane moment to something really safe and low key, and just so on and so forth. And it's another occasion with a track end, for example, which it could serve as an ending conclusion but just as an outro. It doesn't really help though when it's actually one of the longest tracks that exist on this album. And then there is also the track Infinite Realm of Incomprehensible Suffering, which I would expect it to be like the actual finisher that would be a really strong and intense moment, but instead it's just another quite safe novelty track that serves as an underwhelming conclusion with the final two tracks, considering what's before all that. Like I said, in my opinion, the album picks up when we have some really adventurous, really engaging and really dynamic tracks. Take for example the introduction of this album, Flat Earth. It is such an amazing song that would have this amazing beat to it. I especially like the ride on this thing. It's very well crafted, it has some bizarre structures, some nice and refreshing honk passages that could come in very nice occasions throughout this whole thing, and then we have the second half that also fuses jazz elements and it feels really good, and you also have two moments where we have a few seconds of just downright insanity of furious Cybergrind blast beats. This is a great song and it's amazing how many things this track has to it in just less than 2 minutes. The other moments that will stand out for me are the tracks Computers with Keyboard that have a bit of the same sense to them, have some really sickening and abstract beats, but the main things that steal the show in both songs in my opinion are those synth passages that can be bizarre, kind of funny and amateurish, but also have a very terrifying sense to them. It's with those really absurd and really messy and chaotic and adventurous moments like this where in my opinion we get the most compelling results. I would even argue that some of the shortest tracks that go for less than a minute have more of an intensity and a variety to them. Take for example the very intense and the very chaotic Van, or just the absolutely funny Bolonga Penis, or just the McDonald's 7-second track, which is basically just a McDonald's sample. It's from McDonald's, can we take your order? And then just very few, like 1 or 2 seconds of just furious blast beats. And that's it. It takes the novelty formula of grindcore and in my opinion in occasions like this it works really good. But once again for me it's just an album that has its moments. I like it, but it's one of those bands that they just combine so many elements and they make a great job on some of the occasions. But it's one of those groups that I should probably enjoy much more than I actually do. It's another unfulfilling project, which is quite strange feeling unfulfillment from a 17-minute project. However, if you want something short, mindless fun that combines multiple genres together and actually has some tight and quite talented instrumentation, then this album is an absolute total blast, and I definitely recommend for people who are just looking for something fun like this. I'm going to give Van a 6+ out of 10. What's your opinion on this album? Like it, dislike it, why, and what do you want me to review next time? Let me know down in the comments. Leave a like if you enjoyed the video, subscribe for more content like this. Thank you for watching, and I'll see you all in the next video. Goodbye.